Hey everyone, Chris Anderson here. I hope you're getting really excited about the New Zealand Photo Show because it is just around the corner. It is 1 month away because I'm really late at recording this interview, and so only a month to go. It's going to be a fantastic show, and one of the reasons it's going to be fantastic is because of the speakers. And like always, we've got the most amazing speakers, and one of them is joining me for some questions tonight. Matt Palmer, how are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, good.
You're looking forward to the session
That's
in
how
New
good a
Zealand?
speaker I am. I'm giving you so much
That's
to
good.
work with.
Thank you for, running with that. That's excellent.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, if you go to Matt's session and he takes questions, just get ready for 2-word answers and you'll be out of there really fast. No, that's not the way. It's not the way. Look, for those of you, Matt and I are old friends, so we know each other well. But Matt, for people who haven't met you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the kind of work that you do?
All right. Probably giving away one of my lines, but I've photographed everything everything except for babies and galaxies. Is kind of like a good summary. So weddings, sports, commercial, and now largely landscape. So I'm one of the few people probably in Australia that like there's a small group making a living pretty much entirely from landscape photography prints, which is a pretty blessed position to be in. And so I'd say that that and documentary photography, but potentially documentary around landscape and land usage are probably my focuses at the moment.
That is pretty unusual to have landscape photography support you. So are you just selling prints out of your basement, or how are you getting prints to people?
Oh, that's an excellent segue. So I also run the Alpine Light Gallery with my wife, Mika Boynton, who many of you know as well.
So we have
And
both of
so
you coming, which is great.
most of the prints are sold out the door. So
I've been to the gallery and it's excellent. So yeah, if you happen to be in Bright, then you've got to drop in and go see Alpine Light because it's fabulous. And it's great to have both you and Mika on the bill for the New Zealand Photo Show as well. So that's really good. So let's talk a bit about kind of what got you into photography in the first place, because you've got so many different genres that you've shot in your life. Where did you get started on this?
I guess probably the first time the hooks really got in because I feel like everyone's used photography at some point, and probably everyone's kind of been naive to photography until there was that moment where they're like, ah, okay, it can be more than what I thought. And that for me was the first time I ever took a digital SLR to a live music performance. Darren Hanlon at the reopening of the Powerhouse, where you perform quite a bit, I understand.
Mhm.
So yeah, the first time I did that and having the capabilities, so I learned to shoot manual and making creative decisions rather than letting the camera control what I was capturing was very addictive. And so there's parts of my life that I'm sharing in my closing presentation, so from design and that kind of thing. And then from that moment on, photography kind of took over everything.
So again, at the risk of taking over content from your talk, which I don't want to do, but how much has being a designer influenced your photography? And if you want to talk a little bit about the design work that you've done, just to introduce people to it, that'd be great too.
Yeah, so design wise, well, I pretty much started off coding when I was 10 and then was sick of coding by the time I had even left school. And coding was a bit of a rougher world back then. It was all Notepad and later Notepad Plus. Um, so then I transitioned into print design. I was doing a lot of work for non-for-profits and a little bit of government work as well through that. Ended up working in what would you call that medical field for a while. So the Royal Children's Hospital Foundation, then government, but directly for government, and then sports industry of all places. So I ended up at Brisbane Roar FC, and I'd say probably most of the way through that, I was marrying photography with the design, and I was quite competent at the design and developing competency with photography as I went. So it was a good way to be able to learn, but also to be able to deliver value at the same time. Because I feel like a lot of those employees, if I was just a photographer, I wouldn't have kept my job. But lucky I had other skills to bring to the table.
Now you're a judge as well, and you'll be judging in New Zealand. How much of that designer kind of ethic comes to mind with you when you're looking at photos, whether they're your photos or someone else's photos?
I think design and photography have a lot in common when you break it down to the foundation. So when a judge is looking at a photograph and feeling the balance or the color harmonies and the strength that's generated by different parts of the aesthetic of an image, they're assessing the same kinds of things that a designer would or a photographer would. So we're kind of coming to different mediums, but with a similar visual language of sorts. So I feel like design helps a lot. And when a photographer brings an element of design that might be a little bit more obscure or playful, I feel like I can recognize that and reward it, which is really fun. Um, but apart from that, I kind of think we're all talking a fairly similar language and then just executing it in different ways.
Well, that makes sense. So I guess if design has probably influenced your photography, what else has shaped you as an artist or a photographer? Are there particular influences that you recognize now have kind of guided you to where you are now?
I'd say probably the biggest shift, at least aesthetically and subject matter wise, back when I lived in Brisbane permanently, that's kind of like some of you might relate to this. But like if there wasn't a person in the photograph, I wasn't that interested in it. And that was probably a product of where I was and what I was exposed to as well. And then I had traveled like a little bit, but not too much. And then I went on a big trip to Iceland and Norway. And to give you an idea, I didn't even take a tripod with me because that's how little I was a landscape photographer at that point in time. And that really like clicked in my brain. And I was like, whoa, okay, the world can be things that I couldn't imagine that it could be. And really exciting. And one of the great things about being a landscape photographer, as much as it's painful to get up at weird hours or to go out when the weather is miserable, is you get to see the world in a very different way than what other people do, even other photographers that don't necessarily shoot landscape. So that would probably be the biggest transition was just seeing the world in a different way and then
Mm.
being able to represent that through photography.
So you talked about some of your travels there. Is there anywhere that you would say is really unexpected? Any place that photography's taken you where you kind of went, "Oh my gosh, like I can't even believe that I'm here with a camera in my hands."
Well, probably like our most recent trip would be a good example. So, Mika and I and Chris Saunders and Ricardo D'Acunha, we have like a small photography group, and it's kind of to help each other grow and to see things in different ways. So it involves like meeting up online and talking photography, but also going on trips from time to time. And so we went to Kyrgyzstan, of all places. Has, I think, the fourth highest mountains in the world. But the scenery there is absolutely spectacular. And then there's really interesting culture as well. But I feel like it's a country that you can't really get a grasp of until you're actually there. So there's so many expectations that we had. And then you get there and you're like, okay, I'm just going to throw all these expectations out the window. Because, yeah, it's a different world over there. And one part of our trip in particular was focusing on some of the former Soviet mining towns. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, there were whole cities, and then the Russians just disappeared, took whatever they could of value, and then it was like, okay, well, locals, good luck with that. So there's places there where you can be in an incredibly remote place, but there's giant apartment buildings that are completely empty and just like really bizarre and interesting places. So yeah, we explored a number of those kinds of towns, and it was really fascinating. And also to communicate with the locals about their experiences as well. Some of that involved a lot of Google Translate, and we also had a couple of people that traveled with us from Kyrgyzstan. I wouldn't say that they were quite guides, but I guess they were more like fixers. So we didn't really need them to give us directions or anything, but they sure came in handy when things went wrong, which did happen.
What's something that went wrong that you needed, like you would have been just completely stuffed without your fixture?
So, for example, our hire car never made it back to base. And I think maybe the radiator or something was damaged even when we had picked it up. and then the trip just made it worse and worse and worse. And it was like this vehicle's just not going to make it back to the city. We ended up having to drop it at a mechanic's about 4 hours. And when I say 4 hours away from the city, that was 4 hours with the craziest taxi driver we'd ever experienced. I think this guy was hitting like 150k on the highways while having his feet up and trimming his toenails and all sorts of stuff. So it was pretty bizarre experiences, but really good value. Those are all the experiences that you remember and laugh about later. But at the time, you're kind of secretly texting the people in the back of the taxi, going, "I think we might die on this in this taxi ride."
Oh, well, like
Um, so yeah,
props to
he
the
helped us
driver.
find
Yeah.
mechanics and also find a taxi driver.
Cool. That's I'm envious about the things you get to take photos of, and I'm not sure that I'm envious about what you have to go through to get them. So, that sounds
Yeah, well, there's a
excellent.
reason why places like Norway are popular, and it's because that kind of thing doesn't happen in Norway.
Right. Yep.
It's a beautiful place, and you don't get crazy stuff.
So, that's probably a good segue to ask you a question. Have you taken any creative risks that you felt have really paid off for you?
Yeah, well, I'd say one of the images that'll feature briefly in my talks is called Disposed, and it's just a photo of rubbish in a forest. And at the time, I only took photos of the rubbish in the forest because I was really angry about it. I had no idea what I was actually going to do with it, but I just started taking photos of it as if to protest its existence, and then it kind of formed into an image. I can't really remember all the scores for it, but I know I got a gold distinction somewhere. So that was a pretty good result. And so I think I've just since then, and probably a little bit before then, just decided to try and take a few more chances with images and not necessarily just show beautiful things, but also show really unusual things or things that elicit some kind of response that might be a little bit more out of the norm. So I've got a few things like that in the awards this year, and by the time the conference comes around, I'll actually be able to point them out to people, which will be nice.
Awesome. That's my favorite thing is people who are pushing the boundaries. So I can't wait because I don't think I know about these crazy ideas of yours. So we'll see. So you've done, I think because you've done so many different disciplines, like you've grown consistently as you've moved from one to the next. Are there any habits or any disciplines that you've always had or that you've developed that have helped you to grow and to change?
Well, I'd say in the beginning it was complete obsessiveness. So I'm not sure what your journey was at the start, but when I first started learning lighting and all the things that could happen from lighting, I feel like there's a few phases in photography where everything changes, and one is shooting manual, which a lot of the conference goers will be doing, and another is learning how to light things and also lighting things manually, so not letting the flash decide how flashy it should be, but actually controlling all the lights and the quality of the light and how diffused it is and how close it is or far away and all that kind of stuff. So when I first learned about lighting, I was like absorbing, probably reading about it for 4 hours a day, which is kind of mental, I think. And then, of course, practicing it as well whenever I could. So that definitely helped in the early days. And I think these days I probably benefit most from just being around other people that are top level photographers. So I think you kind of get to a point in your career where you have diminishing returns, as horrible as that sounds. But um, when you're younger and you're just getting into it, you might improve your photography, let's say 20% in a year or even in 3 months by doing all these drastic things. And then when you've been in it for 25 years, it's like, oh, if I got like 1% better this year, that would be amazing. And so when you're around all of those people, you can pick up those little tidbits or even just be inspired to look at things in a completely different way than you would have before. And that's where a lot of the changes come now.
No, that makes sense. So, I mean, you have now that you've got all this experience, and like one of the things that newer photographers don't necessarily have a voice and they don't necessarily have an aesthetic and they might not know what they're trying to say. Maybe they do. Um, you've got a lot of experience under your belt. do you have a photographic voice? Like you talked about being angry about seeing the, all the rubbish in the forest. Um, is that related to the voice that you're developing for yourself or that you have for yourself?
I'd say that's probably like a voice that's detached from photography. So I'd probably be wanting to talk about those things in some way, regardless of whether I was a photographer or a designer. So if I was only a designer, maybe I'd be making an infographic or something about these things instead. And sometimes my photography might even border on the infographic. Um, but yeah, I think it just comes down to personal values. And then I realize how I don't know, skillfully inept I am at a hell of a lot of things. And it's like, okay, well, how can I talk about this thing that I care about? Oh, well, photography, I guess, is my way of talking about things, or writing from time to time, or designing something. But a lot of the time, it's photography. So I guess that's part of that voice. In terms of having a consistent aesthetic, I do talk about this a little bit on stage, but it's okay if I say a little bit now. But I think a lot of it really just comes down to doing things over and over and over and over and over again. And then if you do that, one day people go, that looks like a matte image. And you're like, really? Why is that? And then they explain to you what your creative voice is, which can be really helpful because sometimes I don't really know.
I know what you mean. It's fun when you can look at an image and you, even though it doesn't look like work that person's done, you know who did it, or you have a suspicion about who did it because there's something about it. So that's kind of nice if
Hmm.
people are identifying your work as yours. I like that a lot. So
Yeah,
you
that's
touched
nice.
on not wanting to, well, you're kind of touching on some of the things that you're going to be speaking about at the photo show. Can you give us a little taste about what you're going to be sharing at the photo show?
Yeah, so I'm giving two presentations. The first one is the photography project blueprint. So it's something that I've presented on for a good 10 plus years now. And it's basically taking a photography project, which I'm, I guess, photographically known for is devoting a lot of time to specific areas. So like Muay Thai or live music or abandoned buildings in Iceland or whatever, and then making a project out of that. So I explain a way that's fairly accessible that anyone coming, they could feasibly create their own photo project that they can go away and work on and have a plan for and know what they need to do. So that's one of the presentations, and it's probably a little bit less dry than that because you get to look at some photo projects and things as we go as well. And then the second one is a brand new topic for me to talk about, and that is when I first started getting involved in the industry, I would go to conferences like this, and there would be the photographers that had been around for ages, and they would talk through their career. And even though that was just it, like you got so much just out of hearing them talk about what they had done in their career and the people they'd met and talked to and what they had learned from a shoot or something. But I've always struggled with giving that kind of presentation because I'm kind of, I guess, a classic educator, and I'm like, I need deliverables. People need to learn something and take something away that they can use. So I'm kind of trying to marry those two things where I'm giving a bit of a chronological look through my career because I think that can be really interesting, but also putting very explicitly the main lessons that I learned through all of my career as well. And that is the kind of light bulb moments where it seems obvious once you know it, but actually, when you don't know it, it's kind of like a whole nother world that you don't have access to yet. And sometimes that comes through like having a job in your career and something happens, or it can come from like a quiet conversation outside the conference where somebody tells you something and you're like, whoa, that changes how I think about what I'm doing. So I'm trying to package up as many of those as I can fit into the time slot and just giving people a lot of really interesting information.
Awesome. That sounds really good. I cannot wait to see both of those, actually. I'm looking forward to it. So, if one of those is about where you've been in your career, what's next for you? Do you have projects that are on the boil that you feel like you can talk about? What's next for Matt?
Well, our group has to work out what we're doing with this Kyrgyzstan project and where that's going. So that's kind of on the boil at the moment. But I'd say I'm probably fairly open at the moment to ideas, not because I need ideas. So like I got 101 different ideas, but having moved to Victoria, I feel like there's a different relationship that I have with where I am. Maybe the issues that I hear that somebody like me might talk about are not necessarily driven by photography as a medium. They might be driven by something else. So I'm still kind of working out what it is that I want to say in particular based on where I am both in life and geographically. Whereas in Tasmania, the wild is still there and there's still fights going on over that. So it was a lot clearer what a landscape photographer could do down there. But yeah, I've got lots of ideas, and I'm also working on a education platform called Photo Coach. So that's been a big part of my time at the moment. For anyone that's preparing for awards, time's probably run out at the moment. But if you've got any other awards after Iris and Australian Photographic Prize and a few other things that are going on at the moment, I've got like an ebook that I've written that's about, well, I don't know, 160 pages or something about all of the things that I've seen as a judge that have cost images points. So really good stuff to go over, and then helps you see your own images in a different way and assess strengths and weaknesses and things. So you can imagine writing a book that's that length is a fairly timely endeavor as well.
That book, I sat down and I read that, and I'd intended on just dipping in and out of it, and I read it cover to cover because every time I turn the page, it's like, oh my gosh, that's true. Oh my gosh, that's right. It's full of so many hard-earned lessons. So yeah,
Hmm.
like I'd recommend that to people to grab if you get the chance to. But yeah, you're right. It's a little bit late for Iris 2026, so maybe for next year. So
Yeah, and I think the thing, oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, I think the thing about photo judges is that we all really want to reward things. And there's a lot of times where we see something incredible and we really want to reward this incredible thing that we're seeing. But there's just so many little problems that kind of pull it down, and we're like, oh, if only. So, yeah, hopefully that book helps some people that are doing amazing things, but just refine it to a level where we can go, yes, this is awesome, and then really advocate for it.
yep, I think that's one thing about competition judges is I don't know any judges that want to see an image do badly. We're super excited about images doing well. We want them all to be successful. So,
Mm.
helping people to avoid those kinds of mistakes is that's a pretty good thing. So yeah, I wish you all the success with that ebook. I know it's going to be successful because it's amazing. So
Thanks.
we've got a month, depending on when this gets posted. It's the first week of August that we're heading to Christchurch for the Iris Awards and for the New Zealand Photo Show. Um, let's say someone's watching this interview and they're on the fence and they don't know if they're going to attend or not, and tickets are still available. What would you tell someone that's sitting on the fence about coming to the New Zealand Photo Show?
I'd say if the financial side of it is not the sticking point, then just come because it's 2 days. You're going to learn heaps of stuff. That's it's going to be really exciting. What's the worst that can happen? Obviously, budget wise, people are in different places, so I can understand if people need to work out what they're doing, but I'd say it's a small price to pay if you learn a few things over the weekend that can change your practice, that can maybe improve your business or improve your photography, or even just make you more excited about what you can go away and do. Then it's well worth it. And we had actually decided that we were coming over for the conference well before we even knew that we were speaking at it. So we were like, yes, this year we've got to go over there, fill our cup with some inspiration and some new ideas. And then we just happened to be invited to speak at it too, which is fantastic.
That's really
And you'll
good.
meet lots of
Mm.
really amazing and lovely people. Yeah, a lot of the best friends that I have come from these things. So I think Chris and I even probably met the first time at a conference.
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty sure I
you
stalked you
never
back
know.
to your car after one of the awards days, and introduced
Mm.
myself, and I think I might have scared you. So, and Matt's a pretty tall guy, so scaring him is something. But yeah, like when you're in a room or in an environment with a whole bunch of people that are passionate about the same thing that you're passionate about, it's pretty easy to make connections. So, yeah, definitely. If you've never been to one of these conferences before and you're going, oh, I'm going to be a newbie, there are a lot of people there to look after you. There's a first timers breakfast. Um, we'll be able to, there's this like a code on your lanyard so you can go, hey, that's a new person. And we'll be making sure that you're getting everything you need and making friends. And you'll have a whole bunch of wingmen who are out there to help you make friends as well. So, yeah, if you're on the fence, just make your way to Christchurch, and you will have an amazing time. You'll meet amazing people and learn some stuff. including
Mm,
Matt
for sure.
Palmer, who has these two, he's judging, he's got two presentations. Like I said, I can't wait to see them. So, Matt, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. It's very strange that we're friends, but we only ever see each other overseas. That's just odd. We should work on that. So,
Yeah, I
all
wonder if
right,
New Zealand's closer to both of us than we are,
it might be.
continent being the size it is.
That's bizarre. All right, Matt, we'll see you in about a month. Thanks for making time for me to pester you with questions as well. And can't wait to see you in Christchurch.
Yeah, it's going to be good to see you too. And for all the newbies out there, if you are kind of stuck and you don't know who to talk to and you see me walking past, feel free to say hello. I might be walking on my way to do a job or something, but I'll definitely stop and say hello if I can and work out what you're into and maybe introduce you to a couple of people.
Awesome. And I guess if you want to disguise Matt, you could just take the beanie off and no one's going to know it's you. So, yeah,
Mm.
there you
Yeah, well, I won't take it off on camera then.
go. Excellent.
I'll
All
leave
right.
it a
Thanks.
mystery.
Thanks, Matt. And thanks, everybody, for spending some time with us. And we'll see you in about a month.